Okay, wait, I wonder if I can make this guy shoot at me at the same time as he tries to hit me with his shield. Because like I feel like if we mix the original shield enemies with the rapid fire enemies and put them into one, it could make for an interesting boss fight. Okay, what happens if I just turn this off? Oh, he's shooting projectiles. They're playing the sound effect of the shield. And they're hitting his own shield. Oh. Okay, so he is hitting me with his shield, but he stopped shooting at me. Wait. Okay, yeah, he is hitting me, but he stopped shooting. Why isn't he shooting? Hey, my name is Connor, and for the past 10 months, I've been staying up past my bedtime to make a hardcore FPS roguelike. You know, it's not like the world has enough of those already. In my last video, I went over how I made my game's second boss battle, but I wasn't very honest about how I actually felt about it. So here's how I actually feel about it. I feel like my game's second boss battle is a piece of shit that needs to get thrown in. It honestly isn't even a boss battle, it's just a level that has some unique events in it. So what should the next boss battle look like? Well, for starters, we should definitely be fighting an actual boss, not just trying to survive through a level. I went over a couple of ideas like a shotgunner that would run up to you and deal a ton of damage, then run away, but I eventually settled on just combining the two last enemies into one. An enemy that could both hit you with a shield to deal a ton of damage and rapidly fire at you. So how do we actually make that? Well, I already have a base class set up for the rest of the enemies in the game, so hopefully I can just use that. The only problem is all the enemies I've made in the past were either ranged or melee enemies, so I really have no idea whether or not the current structure will be able to support an enemy that can attack both with its shield and with a ranged weapon. We could go through all the code I made and try to predict ahead of time whether it would work or not, or we could just turn off my is melee parameter and see what happens. Oh, he's shooting projectiles. They're playing the sound effect of the shield. And they're hitting his own shield. Okay, that was definitely pretty cool, but I'm gonna turn the is projectile parameter off so we can have him rapid fire like the other enemies. But before I keep working on the second boss battle, I wanna go over some of the other fun stuff I added. I had a few people playtest the game and they all came back with super useful feedback and huge lists of things that need to be implemented or changed. The only problem was I forgot to actually sort through the list, which led me to spending a couple of weeks making mostly unnoticeable changes. But I also managed to get a couple of really cool things done, and it's really important to me that we don't just skip over them. So here we go. I've been trying really hard to get this little circle here to be accepted as a crosshair. I was thinking that because of how hard it is to see, it would encourage players to use the aiming mechanic, but every single player complained about its visibility. So yeah, it's gonna need to go. I started by just adding these 4 lines here, like how you see in almost every other FPS, but they looked way too awkward and static just sitting there, so I set their distance from the center of the screen to be equal to the player's velocity multiplied by a scalar. I also made sure to multiply it again by the inaccuracy of the weapon, so the lines would move further away for the less accurate weapons. I am really happy with this change. The crosshair feels a lot more thought out and has the added benefit of representing the weapon's inaccuracy. One of my playtesters asked me to add the option to load textures from the computer into the game to be used as skins for the main character. So I added a new folder to the game files, made sure to tell the player where to find this folder, and had the folder include a UV map to be used as a template for custom textures. Once I uploaded the build, he sent me a screenshot showing me what he made, which is fucking awesome. If you want to playtest my game, just add me on Discord and ask for a Steam key. I'd love to hear what you think and see all the cool skins you guys make. It really sucks when the game starts you off with 2 weapons you don't like. So I added weapon rerolling. Every time you hit the reroll button, the game accesses a list of all possible weapons and picks a random one to give to the player. I actually think the code for getting a random item in an array is pretty interesting, so I'm gonna try to explain it. This node is what allows us to access a specific item from an array. Here's where we specify which array we want to access an item from, so in our case that array is called player guns. This is where we get to specify which item we want to access. So 0 is for the first item in the array, 1 is for the second, 2 is for the third, and so on. But because we want to grab a random item, we're going to need to put a random number in here. This node outputs a random whole number given a minimum and maximum range. The minimum range should always be 0 for the first item in the array, but the maximum range will depend on the amount of items that there are in the array. If the array has 3 items in it, then the maximum number should be 2. If the array has 20 items in it, then the maximum number should be 19. In other words, the maximum number should always be equal to the length of the array minus 1. As of now, there are only 6 weapons in my game, so I could just type 5 in here, but if ever I decide to add a new weapon, I'll also need to make sure to go into the code to change this number to a 6. Instead, let's use the length node, which takes in an array and outputs its length, then use the addition node, which takes in 2 numbers and outputs their sum. Then we can just place the length into one of the addition's inputs, then type -1 into the other. Now we can finally take this output and place it into the random's maximum. And voila! This might seem a little excessive, but unfortunately there is no node that just automatically gets a random item. I think. Wait. Fuck! Okay, forget everything I just said. In order to get a random item from an array, we just use this thing and call it a day. Dude, fuck me, dude. I've been doing it this way for like 3 years now. Wow, we really do learn something new every day. Okay, back to finishing the boss battle. Right now, he's practically impossible to kill. It is so hard to shoot at him while still moving fast enough to avoid his bullets. Now, I could spend a bunch of time balancing him right now, but I think it would be a much better idea to work on the boss's level first because a new level could change the difficulty. I don't want to balance him, make a level, realize that having cover makes the fighting the boss a lot easier, and then need to balance him again. Okay, now I didn't actually record myself making the level. I guess I'm just too lazy to hit the record button, but this is what I ended up with. Before we balance the boss, there's one more change I'd like to make. Right now, the boss just constantly takes the shortest path to the player to try and hit them with the shield. Because this is currently the game's fastest enemy, it's actually a lot of fun. It forces the player to use their movement to make space at the same time as trying to return fire. Only problem is, once the player breaks the boss's shield, it's pretty much a guaranteed win. So how do we fix this? Well, because all enemies in the game heal passively, you need to make sure to eventually push up on them and commit to the fight. I think that, again, because of how fast this enemy is, it would be interesting if we had him run away from the player once his shield breaks. The player would then need to make sure to use their movement to chase down the boss and maintain fire so that he doesn't heal. The player would have to go from using their movement to make space to needing to use their movement to move up and be aggressive. And once that's done, we can finally move on to balancing the boss, which really just means playing the level over and over again, making little tweaks to damage and health until our boss feels balanced. And so here's the final result. All right, this is like take 3. Let's do this. We got him. We're gonna get him this time. Back up, back up, back up. Dead slide, of course. Oh my god. Bro, my aim is not great. He keeps getting stuck on the stairs. I need to fix that. That's okay. That's a later problem. Oh my god. My aim, dude. If I like hit my shots, I could like... Oh my god, that would have looked so cool if I just hit bullets. There we go. Okay, we can only heal when we have line of sight though, so let's... Okay, we have health now. Now we just need to get him. Bro, my aim. Okay, that was like a little bit. There we go, we got this. Oh no. No, he's healing, he's healed, he's full healed. Bro, get back here. Oh my god, bro, my aim is never gonna end. Oh, wait, he didn't hit me. The frame rate just dropped. Okay, we got this. We're gonna get him. I had a head glitch. Okay, I got this. Oh, he's like half health. I can do this. Let's go. That took way too long. Wow, I'm ass at my own game. I mean, to be fair, like, I didn't have an upgrade. Like, yeah, if I had that, like, yeah, the 1.5 damage, like, you usually get that upgrade by this point, so, like, to be fair. Still, though. Now that we got 2 different sectors and 2 different bosses to go with them, the next step is to add a 3rd sector. Now I don't plan on actually finishing this sector by the end of the video, but let's at least start it. Before we get into that, you may have noticed that it's been a long time since I've uploaded another video. That's just because this shit takes so long. So if this game looks at all interesting to you, please go wishlist it. Right now we're at 300 out of 10,000 wishlists, or 3% of the way there. So yeah, any support would be really appreciated. Okay, so since the 2nd sector is a very dark and saturation lacking level, and since all the levels in my game also follow a very cubic design, I want the 3rd sector to have a ton of color. Wow! This is probably a little excessive, but I'm in love with it, so I'm waiting to see what others think before trying to tone it down a bit. I've also heard a couple of people saying that having the mission be kill all enemies every time gets to be a little repetitive. So I've added a new mission to go with the new levels. Survive 30 seconds. Okay, now we gotta give the new sector new enemies. Most of the enemies in my game just work by constantly moving to a random location the player can't see. This gives the player enough room and time to decide when to make pushes and hopefully makes them feel like a super aggressive assassin. But if the mission given to the player is just to survive 30 seconds, then enemies that don't put any pressure on the player can't really make for an interesting challenge. I think the shield enemies could be really good for these levels, but I don't want to reuse them quite yet. So for now, I'm thinking that we make some really close range pushing shotgun enemies. Again, my current structure for enemies is pretty fucked up, so getting an enemy to shoot many bullets at once is going to be pretty awkward, but at the end of the day, all that matters is that it works. Let's go. Now we gotta make them move faster. Okay, now we gotta give them a running animation. Okay, this should be working now. Nice. There's still a lot of work to be done before this sector is complete. Like a second enemy type, balancing the enemies, more levels, more detail in each level, a boss battle. We'll need to balance the boss level. We'll also need a new level for the boss battle. But for now, I gotta focus on some other stuff, like finishing this very video. Also want to add a couple of new weapons to the game and a couple of new buffs and perks. So if that sounds interesting to you, you should definitely hit the subscribe button and help bring this number up. Ooh, and also wishlist the game, please.